ready for everything. Good morning. So the inspiring quote of the day, it is by Nelson Mandela, a great freedom fighter like Gandhiji to us. I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. Okay, today whose birthday it is? It is one Nobel laureate in physiology or medicine. He is Howard Florey. Actually, he worked with Alexander Fleming for penicillin. So Florey shared the Nobel Prize in physiology or medicine in 1945 with Ernst Boris Chain and Alexander Fleming. Fleming first observed the antibiotic properties of the mold that makes penicillin, but it was Chain and Florey who developed it into a useful treatment. Okay, we know the importance of penicillin and it saved crores of lives. And he says, perhaps the most useful lesson which has come out of the work on penicillin has been the demonstration that success in this field depends on the development and coordinated use of technical methods. So when you have coordination between all the things, you can do it well. Okay, and also he says, people sometimes think that I and others worked on penicillin because we were interested in suffering humanity. I don't think it ever crossed our minds about suffering humanity. This was an interesting scientific exercise, and because it was of some use in medicine, is very gratifying. But this was not the reason that we started to working on it. So all scientists, usually, they work with passion, not for the outcome. Okay, whatever be the outcome, they don't bother about it. They work because they have passion for it and they like it. Okay. And there is another great personality who has born today, is Bhikaji Kama. She is, Shiros means she hero, right? So it's lady hero who fought for freedom. And she is a political activist. And Madam Kama is regarded as an epitome, for she was the first woman who hoisted India's flag in a foreign country in order to shed light in India's distress. Can we even imagine a woman playing such a bold performance? In those days, see, 1861. And at that time, we are so much suppressed at that time. Elegance and patriotism enabled her to move out of a house to fight for her own country. Salute to this glorious personality. And Bhikaji Kama bequeathed most of her personal assets to the Avibai Petit Orphanage for Girls, now the Bhai Avabai Famji Petit Girls High School, Mumbai, which established a trust in her name. And today's lecture, this is 14th lecture, and this is almost like a bit of repetition of the last class. And because second law, till first law, you have studied well in your previous academic years. But second law is the one which actually people have lots of doubts. And also hereafter, new things will come, right? Entropy and availability, all those things which have not studied in the previous classes. Okay, so I'll go further here. Okay, objectives of today's class, it is somewhat similar to the last class. Introduction to second law, thermal energy reservoirs, heat engines, refrigerators and heat pumps, perpetual motion machines, reversible and irreversible process, Carnot cycle, Carnot principles, thermodynamic temperature scale, Carnot heat engine, Carnot refrigerator and heat pump, and also some problems also we will discuss, so that the clarity and concepts will be more clear. So here, just I am doing it in my way instead of using the slides of a textbook. So this second law is given like violation of nature, right? So these are violators of second law of thermodynamics. So whatever Kelvin Planck says, so I say this is which is not possible. So this type of engine is not possible, which produces positive work by interacting with a single reservoir. So QH is the Q in and W out. So if you make the energy balance, Q in is equal to W out, or W out is equal to QH. QL or Q out is 0. So this is so the efficiency is equal to W by QH. So or QH minus QL by QH. So 1 minus QL by QH. So that is 100% because W is equal to QH. So this is Kelvin Planck violator, which is also called as PMM2, perpetual motion machine of second kind. So the other one is Clausius statement, which says that there cannot be a device which transfers heat from low temperature reservoir to high temperature reservoir. Okay, so you cannot have Q transferred from here and given to high temperature reservoir without any work, right? So that is this is Clausius violator, which violates the Clausius statement. And then we defined what is heat engine, what is refrigerator or air conditioner, or what is heat pump. So high temp heat engine is the one which converts heat into work by rejecting some amount of heat. So QH is taken from the high temperature reservoir, and the QL is rejected to the low temperature reservoir, and the difference QH minus QL is the W out. So W is equal to QH minus QL. Heat engine efficiency is equal to W by QH. W is equal to QH minus QL. So this is the, so that is 1 minus QL by QH. This is the expression for efficiency for any heat engine. Okay, any heat engine. Okay, if it is refrigerator or air conditioner, which transfers energy or heat energy from low temperature reservoir to high temperature reservoir by inputting some work. So this is QL, this is QH, and W in, again by energy balance. So how much QH will be QL plus WN, because two are going in and one is going out. So energy in is equal to energy out. So QL plus WN is equal to QH, or again WN is equal to QH minus QL. Okay, then COP of refrigerator is the useful output or useful thing, whatever it is, that is QL, and the work input is W, that is which I spent. So it is QL by QH minus QL. This I can write it as 1 by QL by QH minus 1. So now this is wrong. This is QH by QL minus 1. Okay, so if QL, so COP, can it be greater than 1? So if QL is greater than W, because here QL by W is there, if QL is more than W, I can have COP of refrigerator greater than 1. Because it is possible to have the coefficient of performance or the performance coefficient of a refrigerator and AC can be greater than 1. That's why it is not called as efficiency of refrigerator, but given a new name, coefficient of performance. It is not given the name of efficiency. Both means same thing, but we don't say efficiency because efficiency can never be greater than 1. Okay, so then it is taking from heat from the refrigerated space and leaving it to the atmosphere. Okay, atmosphere is high temperature, and the required thing to be cooled is the low temperature reservoir. But heat pump means here high temperature reservoir will be heated room, and low temperature reservoir is the atmosphere, which is cool. So I have to take heat from the atmosphere and I have to heat the room. This can be done only by giving some work to it. So I have to run the machine, which is heat pump. So again, if I do the heat balance, same thing holds good. W in is equal to QH minus QL. So COP of heat pump is equal to, again, useful energy is QH. The energy spent is W. So QH by W. And QH is, W is QH minus QL. So COP of heat pump is QH by QH minus QL. And if I subtract, so this minus this, COP of HP minus COP of R. So denominator is same, QH minus QL. So numerator QH minus this QL. So it will be 1. So COP of heat pump minus COP of refrigerator is 1, which says that COP of heat pump is equal to 1 more than COP of refrigerator. So it is always greater than 1. It can never be less than 1 because COP of refrigerator is always a positive quantity. So it will be more than 1 always. Okay, then we say the Kelvin Planck statement and Clausius statement, they are equivalent. So what I do is I will take a Kelvin Planck violator, which is high temperature reservoir. This is Kelvin Planck violator or PPM2, and it takes QH heat and produces work W, which is equal to QH. And suppose if I take a refrigerator separately, and the refrigerator, it is taking QL. So if this is run by the Kelvin Planck violator, so QH is this side. So whatever is coming out will be, because these are two in and out, will be QH plus QL. So this is the refrigerator. And if I combine these two into a single device, if I draw the control volume this way, okay, so this is the control volume of this. So what is that entering in? What is that going out? So it is coming, QL is coming from this side, and to the high temperature reservoir, QH plus QL is going this way and QH is coming this way. So upwards it will be QL. Okay, QH plus QL minus QH, it is QL. So this is that. And what about work? There is no work. There is no work at all coming out of the control volume. Okay, so all work is taken by this. So there is no net work from the device. So this becomes, we know that this is Clausius violator. So I am taking a Kelvin Planck violator. Using that, I come to a device which violates Clausius statement, right? In the same way, we can do the other way. So if I take a Clausius violator, so this is Clausius violator. If I take this Clausius violator, which takes QH from here and leaves QH to the high temperature reservoir without any work, okay? And suppose I take a heat engine just separately, which takes QH and leaves QL and gives W is equal to QH minus QL. So these two devices, if I combine together into a single device, so again, if I draw the energy transfer diagram, so this is together, this is the device. And because QH is going out and QH is coming in from high temperature reservoir, this is not necessary. I can directly connect these two. Okay, so this is removed. And from here, QH is going in and QL is going out. So the net heat transfer is equal to QH minus QL. And the work is already there coming out of this, the QH minus QL. So this becomes a Kelvin Planck violator. So if I take a Clausius violator, this automatically violates Kelvin Planck statement, which says that violating one law violates the other law. So these two can be said to be equivalent. Any questions? It is just I'm repeating the same thing again, and also which already you know in the previous year. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. So Carnot cycle. Carnot cycle, we know that is a reversible isothermal where heat is added, right? And then reversible adiabatic, which is just taken back without heat transfer. And then these two are expansions where I have positive work. And then there will be isothermal compression at constant temperature. I bring the sink to the cylinder head and there will be compression. And then suddenly I will put to 4-to-1, that is adiabatic compression. So these are the four processes which completes the cycle. Here there is heat addition, isothermal, and here heat rejection, isothermal. There is no heat transfer here and there is no heat transfer here. So here TH is constant, here TL is constant. Okay, so if I take all the four processes separately, so process 1-2, it is reversible isothermal where heat addition at constant temperature, TH is equal to constant. Because T is constant, there is no change in internal energy. So heat transfer is equal to work transfer, and work transfer is P1 V1 log P1 by P2 or V2 by V1, whatever it is. So I am writing in P's, P1 by P2. So this is QH. And process 2-3, reversible adiabatic process. So it is an expansion and there is no heat transfer there. Q23 is 0. And coming to process 3-4, again it is isothermal heat rejection at TL equal to constant. So again internal energy change is 0. So heat transfer is equal to work transfer. This is P3V3 log P3 by P4. So this is QL. So this can be written P3V3 as RT3 or RTL. Similarly, P1B1 is RT1 or RTH because TH is constant. And so here the our efficiency is equal to 1 minus QL by QH. So 1 minus RTL by log P4 by P3 by RTH by log RTH log P2 by P1. So here, because these two are working, the adiabatic process from TH to TL, and here adiabatic process from TH to TL. So here the pressure ratio is equal to temperature ratio to the power of gamma minus 1 by gamma. Here also pressure ratio is temperature ratio to the power of gamma minus 1 by gamma. Because these two temperature ratios are same, these pressure ratios also will be same. Okay, so that's what we have done here. Because the temperature ratios are same, TH by TL for both the processes. So pressure ratios will be same. So we will find out that this pressure ratio and this pressure ratio are same and they get cancelled, and I am getting 1 minus TL by TH. Okay, this is the Carnot efficiency. This is Carnot efficiency. Actual efficiency of any heat engine is 1 minus QL by QH, and but Carnot efficiency, that 1 minus QL by QH becomes 1 minus TL by TH. So this is what is called as reversible cycle efficiency or Carnot efficiency. So reversible cycle efficiency or Carnot efficiency is 1 minus TL by TH. Okay, this is because the pressure ratio, if it is written in terms of volume ratio, if you take as R, okay, so V3 by V2 or V4 by V4. So this pressure ratio is equal to R power gamma, and so this 1 minus TL by TH, which is temperature ratio, which becomes 1 minus 1 by R power gamma minus 1. Okay, this is a derivation. You can just check it. It's a very simple direct derivation. And Carnot efficiency, so by seeing this, we can make some conclusions. What are the Carnot efficiency increases by increasing TH and by decreasing TL. If TH increases, Carnot efficiency increases. If TL decreases, Carnot efficiency again increases. Okay, so that is the area within the curve. If it is more, I will have more positive work. So if we take the Carnot cycle, if I take the top portion up, okay, so I will have more efficiency, or bottom portion down, I can have more efficiency. I have to have more area within this Carnot cycle. Okay, so that is the thing I want to have more work or more efficiency. And so here in this derivation, we have made some assumptions. I didn't talk about it, but there are many assumptions we have made. One is working fluid is perfect gas. Okay, that is obvious assumption for all the thermodynamics, whatever we are dealing, except only for real gas things which we study sometime later. Okay, and frictionless piston in a perfectly insulated cylinder. Then perfectly conducting cylinder head. So I told source will be brought to cylinder head, and at constant temperature, there will be expansion taking place. Again, sink will be taken to the cylinder head, and constant temperature compression will take place. So this can be possible only when there is a perfectly conducting cylinder head. And HTR and LTR, high temperature and low temperature reservoirs, have infinite heat capacity. And all processes are reversible. Right? So all these are assumptions. Above assumptions show the impossibility of practical Carnot cycle. Okay, in the last class, I have given some reason why Carnot cycle is not possible. So you can give all these assumptions, actually, whatever made, you cannot have perfect gas, you cannot have frictionless piston, and you cannot have perfectly conducting cylinder head, you cannot have HTR and LTR of infinite capacity, and you cannot have reversible process at all. Okay, all these things are causes of impossibility. So there is another thing which is added. Actually, it is taken from a book also, like this, why Carnot cycle is impossible. So it says the Carnot cycle cannot be realized in actual practice because of the following reasons. It's only in one book I have seen it, but in the internet, actually nobody talks about these things. Okay, one is isothermal process can only be achieved if the piston moves very slowly to allow heat interchange so that temperature remain constant. So this is one. Again, adiabatic process can only be achieved if the piston moves very fast so that heat interchange is negligible due to very short time available. In the Carnot cycle, isothermal and adiabatic process take place in the same stroke, which means that for part of the stroke, the piston should move very slowly, and for the remaining part, it should be very fast. This variation of speed in the same stroke is not possible practically. Okay, this is one reason is given. Another reason also is given. Compared to the length of the stroke, the area of the indicated diagram is very small. Actually, this TH line and TL line will be very close to each other, and it is very like a small strip, and hence the work done per cycle is very small, and many even may not even be able to overcome the friction of the reciprocating parts. The work is so less, and even to overcome friction, that work is not sufficient. So if you try to make a Carnot cycle, these are the difficulties you will encounter. Okay, so that's what it says. But you can give all the reasons which I have written as assumptions. Right, so all these assumptions, the assumptions means these are not possible. Okay, so I am assuming if it is possible, then I can have a Carnot cycle having the maximum efficiency. So the corollaries come from there. Okay, Carnot theorem, what it says, that is the corollary first. It is impossible to construct an engine having more efficiency than a Carnot engine or reversible engine working between the same heat reservoirs. Okay, so if I have same reservoirs, I cannot have irreversible cycle to be more efficient than reversible cycle. Okay, this proof can be taken like this. If I assume the opposite, if it is possible, if eta irreversible is greater than eta reversible, so I take the HDR and LTR here, and I take irreversible engine and reversible engine. So irreversible engine, it leaves a heat of QL reversible producing W irreversible, and reversible engine rejects QL reversible and produces W reversible. So according to the assumption, okay, so W irreversible by QH is greater than W reversible by QH. And if I take same QH working between taking same heat from the high temperature reservoir, then W irreversible should be greater than W reversible. That is, this work should be greater than this work. So if I make it as a refrigerator, then this can be run by this. Okay, because all reversible, if I take W reversible, it goes like this and it becomes a refrigerator, reversible refrigerator. And here another thing is 1 minus QL by QH of irreversible is greater than 1 minus QL reversible by QH. So this says that QL reversible is greater than QL irreversible because because it is less efficient means it has to reject more heat, and this is less heat. Okay, so the QL reversible is more than QL irreversible. So now if I run this reversible refrigerator using the work developed by irreversible cycle, right, then it takes QL reversible and all these three are reversed. Okay, and because W irreversible is more than W reversible, still I have net work which is W irreversible minus W reversible. And here QH is going out, QH is coming in. So this HDR is not needed. And here QL irreversible is coming down and QL reversible is going up. So whatever is going up is QL reversible minus QL irreversible. Okay, so this is becoming a Kelvin-Planck violator or PMM2 because this is not needed. So because this violates second law, whatever initial assumption we have made, that is wrong. So you cannot have a cycle having efficiency greater than a reversible cycle. So irreversible cycle always will be less than reversible cycle efficiency. Okay, so this is the proof. Any doubts? Is it okay? Okay. Okay, then corollary 1, all reversible engines operating between the same heat reservoirs have the same efficiency. This we can logically say because any reversible engine, the efficiency is 1 minus TL by TH. So any number of reversible engines if you put, all efficiencies will be same 1 minus TL by TH. Okay, the other one, the efficiency of any reversible engine operating between the two reservoirs is independent of the nature of working fluid and depends only on the temperatures of the reservoirs, because this is this 1 minus TL by TH. There is no property here. Suppose this is CPTL by CPTH or HL by HL. If it is something like that, then fluid property will come into picture. But here, fluid property is no way present here. So which says that it is just a function of the working temperatures of the reservoirs. And a scale of temperature scale can be defined which is independent of any particular substance and which provides the absolute zero temperature. So reversible cycle efficiency, actually 1 minus TL by QH is general heat engine efficiency. So this is equal to 1 minus TL by TH for reversible efficiency. So it says that QL by QH is TL by TH. So this is for reversible engines. If I develop a temperature scale which satisfies this particular relation, that is called as thermodynamic temperature scale. And actually then it is shown later, I will show sometime later, that this thermodynamic temperature scale is nothing but the Kelvin scale. Okay, if you use the equation of state, you can show that. And corollary 4, it is already defined. QL decreases as TL decreases. And the smallest possible QL is 0. And the corresponding T is 0. So if QL is 0, then it becomes a Kelvin Planck violator. Means that QL can never be 0. So if QL can never be 0, we can never approach absolute zero temperature. It is against nature, right? You can approach it, but you cannot reach it. Okay. So if a system undergoes reversible, and when T is 0, QL is 0, means isothermal process becomes adiabatic process. QL is 0 means adiabatic. T is constant, or T is not changing. So it is isothermal process where T is constant, T is 0. So reversible adiabatic and reversible isothermal will become same at QL equal to 0 or T equal to 0. And at absolute zero, isotherm and adiabatic are identical. Okay, so there is no difference in them. So, and continuation, if QL equal to 0 at TL equal to 0, the engine working between TH and TL becomes a Kelvin Planck violator. Any attainable value of temperature is always greater than 0 Kelvin. So you can never approach 0 Kelvin. So this became actually third law of thermodynamics. Third law of thermodynamics is stated by Fowler and Guggenheim. Fowler-Guggenheim statement, which is third law of thermodynamics, which says that it is impossible by any procedure, no matter how idealized, to reduce any system to the absolute temperature of 0 in a finite number of operations. You can never approach absolute, never reach absolute zero temperature. This is third law of thermodynamics. Actually, third law of thermodynamics has another statement also, which we will talk about when we talk about entropy. Okay, so this is one, like you have Kelvin Planck statement and Clausius statement for second law of thermodynamics. You will have two statements for third law of thermodynamics. One is this. Okay, another we will talk about later. And so similar to reversed heat engine, we can have reversed refrigerator or a heat pump. Right? So that is, if you reverse a heat engine, it becomes a refrigerator. If it is all reversible cycles, that is reversed refrigerator or reversed heat pump. That is, if I draw the PV diagram in anti-clockwise direction, then it becomes a refrigerator or a heat pump. Why? Because this is anti-clockwise. So this is expansion. Expansion process is below and compression process is above. So expansion is positive work, which is less, and compression is negative work, which is more. And so it has negative work. Okay, so I have to supply work to a refrigerator or a heat pump. And so just again, COP of refrigerator, we know it is QL by QH minus QL. And for reversible refrigerator, it becomes TL by TH minus TL. We have to replace Q by T, that's all. And COP of heat pump, QH by QH minus QL is equal to TH by TH minus TL. And COP of reversible refrigerator or a heat pump is greater than COP of irreversible refrigerator or a heat pump. Same things like efficiency of heat engine, a reversible engine is greater than efficiency of irreversible engine. In the same way, the performance is better for reversible than irreversible. Okay, so okay, we will see some problems. Okay, so because whatever, even though the concepts are clear and all, everything you understand, but when you come to the problems, unless you work out some problems, you cannot understand how to handle it. Okay, so we take a particular problem. A reversible engine is supplied heat from high temperature reservoirs 900 Kelvin and 600 Kelvin. I have two sources. I am taking some problems which really a bit difficult to understand at the beginning. Okay, so once you do such problems, then you will understand how to tackle this. So there is a reversible engine here for which heat is supplied from two sources, one at 900 Kelvin and another at 600 Kelvin. And it develops work of 90 kilowatts and rejects heat to a low temperature reservoir, which is at 300 Kelvin by an amount of 56 kilowatts. And I have to estimate the heat supplied by each source and the efficiency of the engine. So I have this, it's straightforward figure because I have two sources, one engine and one sink. So I can draw like this. Okay, two sources, one at 900 Kelvin, 600 Kelvin, and sink at 300 Kelvin. So it takes some heat from here and rejects some heat, and take some heat from here and reject some heat. Okay, so here, so this is like two engines connected in series. You can take like that, two engines connected in series, and I get some work from here, some work with total work I am getting from here like that. So TH1, TH2, and TL. Okay, and W is 90 kilowatts, and this total heat rejected Q2 plus Q4 is given to be 56 kilowatts. Okay, this is the data given. And always remember, whenever we do these problems, these two formulae we have to remember. Okay, that is engine efficiency 1 minus QL by QH, or W by QH is equal to 1 minus TL by TH. Okay, I have to remember efficiency is equal to W by QH, or 1 minus QL by QH, or 1 minus TL by TH. So based on the data availability, I have to use the formula. And here also, you can take this as COP of refrigerator is QL by W, QL by QH minus QL, and TL by TH minus TL. COP of heat pump, QH by W, QH by QH minus QL, TH by TH minus TL. So based on the data, you have to calculate whatever is the unknown. Okay, so here, eta 1, that is efficiency of the first one, is W1 by Q1, or TH1 minus TL by TH1. I know TH1, TL, and so I can calculate what is the efficiency. Efficiency is 0.67. This is also equal to W by Q1. So I can calculate what is W in terms of Q1. So W1 is equal to 0.67 Q1. And so Q2 is equal to Q1 minus W1 and 0.33 Q1. Okay. So why I am doing this? I want to use these values of W and this, that is, we are given W equal to 90 kilowatts, Q2 plus Q4 is equal to 56 kilowatts. I have two additional data I have. So I have to use that data. So this total work is given. So if I find out individual works, the total work I can get it. And if I find out individual heat rejections, the total is given here. So I will get two equations by which I can calculate two variables. Okay. So here I got Q2 is equal to Q1 minus W1, 0.33 Q1. Similarly, for the second one, I can have W2 by Q3. Okay, this is equal to TH2 minus TL by TH2, and 600 minus 300 by 300, which is 0.5. Okay, so W2 by Q3 is 0.5. So W2 is 0.5 Q3. And then Q4 is equal to Q3 minus W. So which is 0.5 Q3. So now the sum of these two works is equal to 90 kilowatts. The sum of these two heat rejections, Q2 plus Q4, is equal to 56 kilowatts. And I have two equations in terms of Q1 and Q3. If I solve them, I can get Q1 and Q3, which gives the heat that is taken from the high temperature reservoir from both of them. So I can find out what is the, so whatever is asked, so I have to find out the heat supplied by each source. So I got Q1 and Q3. And then efficiency. What is the network output? Total output by total input. Total output is W1 plus W2, which is given 90. And total input is Q1 plus Q3, sum of these two, 100 plus 46. So this gives 61.6%. Okay, so this is the way I have to solve this. Any doubts? Is that okay? So we'll see another problem. A reversible heat engine operating between 600 degrees centigrade and 40 degrees centigrade drives the reversible refrigerator, which operates between 40 degrees centigrade and minus 20 degrees centigrade. The heat transfer to the engine is 2 megajoules, and the network output of the combined device is 360 kilojoules. Find the heat transfer to the refrigerator and to the reservoir at 40 degrees centigrade, and find heat engine efficiency and COP of refrigerator if each is 40% of their maximum value. Okay, this second one we will discuss a bit later. Okay, first I have to draw this. And there is a reversible heat engine working between 600 degrees centigrade and 40 degrees centigrade. So I have to draw the high temperature reservoir and low temperature reservoir, and I have to draw the heat engine like this. And here it is given that it is taking 2 megajoules of heat from the high temperature reservoir. So Q1 is equal to 2 megajoules. Okay, so this is coming like this. And because I know these two temperatures, I can find out the efficiency. Because I know the efficiency, W by QH I know. Because QH is given, I can find out W. So I can find out what is the work that is coming from the heat engine. Okay, and so out of this total work, some work is used to drive the refrigerator, and still there is net work, which is 360 kilojoules. Okay, so here what is work taken by the refrigerator? This total work minus 360 will be the work given to the refrigerator. So I get W. And I can find out efficiency because I know, and this refrigerator is working between 40 degrees centigrade and minus 20 degrees centigrade. Okay, so minus 20 degrees centigrade is the room. Okay, this is low temperature reservoir. And for this is high temperature reservoir. Just you should not get confused. For this heat engine, this is HTR and this is LTR. And for the refrigerator, this is HTR and this is LTR, from which I have to take out heat. Okay, so it is taking heat from the low temperature reservoir and giving it to the high temperature reservoir by taking work from here. So knowing these two temperatures, I can find out what is COP. And COP, I can, once I find out, so COP is equal to this Q by W. W is already known, so I can find out what is Q. So in this way, I can find out all the variables, whatever are needed. Okay, so we will see here how it is done. So T1, this is 600 degrees centigrade, means 873 Kelvin. T2 is 40 degrees centigrade, means 313 Kelvin. And this is minus 20 degrees centigrade, means 253 Kelvin. So because these working between these two, I can find out the efficiency of the heat engine, which is 1 minus TL by T2 by T1. So 1 minus 313 by 873. And so I told you that the efficiency is also equal to the work by heat supplied. So heat supplied is 2 megajoules. So I can find out what is work by the heat engine. So once I get the work by the heat engine, I have to take 360 out. The remaining is the work for refrigerator. So WR is equal to W by heat engine by W net. So which I get this much. So once I get this work that is given, now I have to find out COP of reversible refrigerator. So which is again T3 by T4 minus T3. T3 is the required one, T4 minus T3 is the work actually. So T3 by T4 minus T3, I will get this. And this is also equal to Q3 by WR. WR is known here, so I can find out what is Q3. Okay, so Q3 is equal to 3892.3. That is the amount of heat taken from the refrigerator. Actually, this is what we want. Okay, and then the remaining things, how much heat is given to this from the two, right? This is giving some work and heat, and this is working giving some heat, and total heat I have to find out. So what is the heat coming this way? This is Q1 minus W. Okay, and what is the heat coming this way? Okay, so that is these two are coming in and coming out. So this whatever is coming out is equal to Q3 plus W. So in this way, I can find out what is Q4 and what is Q2 and add those two. I will get the heat transfer to the sink. Is that problem clear? We have to understand the concept, what is present, and you have to draw the schematic which gives the clear idea. And okay, I have drawn it side by side. Sometimes in the books, it will be drawn down. Okay, so it is working between 40 and low temperature reservoir I can draw here, and refrigerator working between this and this I can draw. And work I can put like this. Okay, so that is the way in some books it is drawn. So you can draw in any way. Only thing is my data is to be presented properly. Is this problem clear? So if these two problems are clear, actually your life will become easy for the remaining problems. And actually there is an extension to the problem, and these are given as reversible heat engine and reversible refrigerator, but it need not be. They can be real irreversible heat engine and refrigerator. So it is given that if the efficiency of heat engine is 40% of the maximum efficiency and COP of refrigerator is 40% of the maximum possible thing. So you have to get the same things again. Okay, what should I do? So this efficiency, this is maximum efficiency is 0.6415. Okay, so into 0.4 I have to put so that I get the actual heat engine efficiency, and the remaining things I calculate the same way. Okay, so because this is general irreversible or reversible engine, it is true for any engine. And in the same way, when COP of refrigerator, this is ideal refrigerator 4.217. So actual refrigerator COP will be into 0.4, and I have to repeat the calculations in the same way. Okay, there is no difference. Only thing is 40% of the ideal ones are reversible ones. Okay, this is the way I have to handle this problem. Any doubts? So if everybody keep quiet, either nobody understand or everybody understand. So for my convenience, I feel that, okay, everybody understood. But if you don't understand, it's your problem. So you have to sort it out. Okay. Okay, second part again, just I will tell you, nothing. Okay. So it is given that the actual heat engine and actual refrigerator is only having the performance 40% of the ideal performance. Okay, so this is ideal heat engine efficiency 0.6415. So actual heat engine efficiency will be into 0.4, 40% of this. So that is to be used in the calculation here when you calculate the work, because the work will be less, right? So this 2 megajoules given is same efficiency. Now this into 0.4. So my heat engine work will be less than whatever is the ideal one. Okay, so the remaining calculations will be as it is. In the same way, COP of refrigerator ideal is 4.217, but actual will be that is 40% of this into 0.4. Okay, so into 0.4 will be COP of actual refrigerator, and that if I use here, right, then I have to calculate Q3 using that. So Q3 will be less now. That is, whatever is taken out will be less than ideal one. So, and the remaining calculations will be same. Is that okay? Shivam. Okay, Shivam, is it okay? Okay. So the same things I have given here. Thermal efficiency of a general heat engine is 1 minus QL by QH. A reversible heat engine is 1 minus TL by TH. And actual engine efficiency may be less than reversible efficiency or equal to or greater than. So if it is less than, that is the practical engine irreversible. Okay, because actual engine efficiency should be less than reversible engine efficiency. If they are equal, so this engine also is a Carnot engine. Okay, this is also not possible. Okay, it is reversible engine, I can understand. So if somebody claims it is greater than, reversible cycle efficiency, then it is impossible engine. Okay, this is what I told. We have to use this formula, either W by QH or 1 minus TL by TH. Okay, if TL by TH, TL and TH are given, first calculate efficiency. And once the efficiency is known, if this is known, this to be calculated. And this is known, this is to be calculated, W by QH. Okay, and if W and QH are given, you can get the efficiency. If one of these two is known, TL or TH, you can get the other. Okay, so there are W, QH, TL, TH. Out of them, 4, if 3 are known, 1 can be obtained using the efficiency. In the same way, COP of refrigerator or heat pump, it is given with respect to Q and W and also in terms of temperatures. Okay, same way. So if normally you will be given the temperature, so I can calculate COP. Once I know COP, if one of these two are known, the other can be calculated. If you know work, I can find out what is Q. If you know Q, you can find out what is W. Okay, so that is the way. And similarly for refrigerator or heat pump, a reversible the actual refrigerator COP will be less than reversible refrigerator COP. So then it is possible. Equal to means reversible. Greater than, if somebody claims I have a refrigerator with more COP, that is impossible. Okay, this is one more problem. It is taken from PK-NOG. And so what is more effective way to increase the efficiency of a Carnot engine? To increase TH, keeping TL constant, or to decrease TL, keeping TH constant? Okay, if you do both, it is good. But if you have the choice of doing one of them, so which is better? Okay, which is more effective? So this mathematically it can be done. So Carnot cycle efficiency is 1 minus TL by TH. If TL is constant and differentiating this dou eta by dou TH, so what happens? I will get 1 by TH is minus 1 by TH square. So it is TL is constant. So it is TL by TH square. And if TH is constant, dou eta by dou TL at TH constant. So if TH is constant, this will be minus 1 by TH. Okay, minus 1 by TH. So this TL by TH square, it indicates that as eta increases as TH increases. Okay, and the slope of, that is the slope dou eta by dou TH decreases as TH increases. If this increases, right, so this slope decrease. And this is 1 by TH. I know eta increases as TL decreases from this. And about the slope is constant as TL changes. Okay, so if TL is changing, so the slope is minus 1 because it is independent of TL, minus 1 by TH. So if I draw a graph between eta and TH, okay, between eta and TH, when will be eta 0? Eta 0 means this is 1, means TH is equal to TL. So when TH is equal to TL, eta will be 0. Then the slope positive, but decreases as TH increases. So initial slope is this, and as TH increases, the slope decreases. And eta is equal to 1 when TH is infinity. So when this eta will be 1, when this eta will be 1, when this is 0. When this will be 0, when TH is infinity. So this increases and gradually it slope decreases, and it tries to approach in as infinity, eta approaches 1. Okay, so this is the way the eta varies with TH when TL is constant. And the other way, when so TL, variation of TL with eta, so eta equal to 0, eta equal to 0 means TL is TH, that is this point. Okay, and the slope is negative. And eta equal to 1 when this is 0 or TL is 0. So when TL is 0, eta is 1. When TL is TH, eta is 0. And then I have a negative slope. Okay, you can see a negative slope. So this is coming like this. Okay, this is the way the variation of eta with TL. This is the way the eta varies with TH. Okay, and if you want to compare these two, and dou eta by dou H is the TL by TH square. This is dou eta by dou TL minus 1 by TH. If I multiply by TH, both numerator and denominator, so minus TH by TH square. Okay, so this is this. And if I want to compare these two, which is more, TL by TH square or TH by TH square? Because TH is more, right? So dou eta by dou TL, I think I have written wrong. Okay, so this is dou TL and this is dou TH. So this is more than this. Means the efficiency or the effectiveness is more if I keep TH constant and TL decrease. Okay, more effective way to increase eta is to decrease TL. Okay, this is important. This is the outcome of this. But this is theoretical. But practically, decreasing TL is not possible at all. That is, TL is normally sink temperature, which is ocean or atmosphere or these things. I cannot decrease the temperature of the ocean or atmosphere or these things. But increasing TH is practically possible. I can increase the boiler temperature. I can increase the furnace temperature. I can increase the combustion chamber temperature by burning more fuel. Okay, so practically increasing TH is easier than decreasing TL, but theoretically decreasing TL is more effective to increase the efficiency than increasing TH. I hope you understand the difference between these two. Is it okay? Okay, I think I have shown this PMM1 and PMM2 Carnot cycle and all these things. Okay, these are taken from the textbook, and those things I have drawn by myself. Okay, so I think we can stop here. You can ask questions if there are any. And one more thing, I think yesterday you have seen the mail. I have sent 2 files, and one giving the planning or coverage that I am going to do for the whole syllabus. Okay, so if somebody wants to go through it ahead, you can always go through it. So those are the topics. It can be from any book, right? Almost all thermodynamics books cover all the things, and so that is the general coverage. And I have given another file with questions that are taken from the PKNOG only. They have scanned them and taken them. And because the questions, almost if you just read the questions and if you understand what is the question, that is enough, right? It covers the coverage is covered in the questions of PKNOG. And PKNOG is a good book. This is prescribed for your GATE also. So any question, if you don't get the answer, just check because this is a small book only. So you can check the book. And if you still don't get it, you can ask me in the class or privately, right? You can ask anytime. And I'm going to send some question bank, the problem bank also. And first of all, go through the worked out examples of all the books that I have given to you so that you can understand what is the way you can tackle a problem. And in the class also, we are discussing some problems. It gives a confidence that how to proceed with the given data. Any questions? Sai Harsha, what is your question? So, but we keep TL constant. Yeah, usually TL is constant only because if it is possible, right? Sometimes if you remember power plant when you have, right? We try to Rankine cycle. I don't know whether you have discussed in the BME or not. When you have Rankine cycle, the ways of efficiency, increasing efficiency is increasing the boiler pressure or decreasing the condenser pressure. Decreasing the condenser pressure decreases TL, actually, TL of the cycle, right? So for that, I have to spend a lot of money. I have to have a vacuum pump, and which decreases the pressure and temperature of the condenser. So I have to check. So what is the advantage or additional work I am getting, and what is the work I am spending, and whether it's worth to spend that or not. And decreasing TL is always difficult, but it is done, right? As in Rankine cycle. Is that okay, Sri Harsha, Sai Harsha? Okay. Anything else? Okay, we go to the story, today's story. I think it is last one. No? I have taken it somewhere else, I think. Okay, anyhow, today I will ask you a puzzle. Okay, I will ask you a puzzle. It's a simple one. I have 1,000 rupees. I give you the 1,000 rupees, and you have to arrange the 1,000 rupees in 10 bags. You have to arrange the 1,000 rupees in 10 bags in whichever way you want. But you should be able to give me any amount from 1 rupee to 1,000 rupees without opening the bags. By combining some bags, I have to get that particular amount. Any amount, if I ask, you have to be able to give me without opening the bags. So in which way you have to distribute those 1,000 rupees in the 10 bags? Could understand the problem? Right, you try to come with the answer. Could you understand the problem? 1,000 rupees are to be distributed in 10 bags in such a way that whatever amount from 1 rupee to 1,000 rupees are asked, you should be able to give with a combination of the bags. So which way the 1,000 rupees are to be distributed? Okay, so that is the question. So there is another puzzle also. This is a famous puzzle. I think you might have come across. If I have 12 coins made out of the same material, same thing and everything, same size and all, and out of which one is having some faulty. One is faulty, okay, having a different weight. All are having same weight and one coin is having different weight. I don't know whether it is more or less. Only thing is I have to locate that particular coin out of those 12 using a balance. And that balance is very costly balance because it should be very precise. Maybe only milligrams difference may be there. I have to identify. So the using of balance should be minimized. Okay, it is very costly. I cannot. It is somebody else's, so I have to pay for it. So you are supposed to identify the fault coin with 3 uses of the balance. Out of the 12 coins, you have to identify the fault coin by using only 3 times. So which way you use it, it is left to you. Okay, Ram Beniwal, which problem you want me to repeat? The first one? Okay, I'll tell you again the first one. I have 1,000 rupees and 10 bags, and I have to distribute the 1,000 rupees in the 10 bags. Distribute some way, it is left to you. And any amount, yeah, very good. Emosh is right. Okay, actually, this comes from binary numbers, right? Like if you have binary numbers, the first rightmost digit, it is 1. The second one is 2. The third one is 4. The the fifth one is 8, like that. Actually, you will feel difficult actually after putting 1 rupee in one bag, 2 rupees into a second bag, 4 rupees in third bag, 8 rupees in the fourth bag, 16 rupees. So 16, 18, 24, 28, 30, 31, 31 rupees, almost half bags are over. And how to distribute the remaining things and how to give money like that, people will think, even though initially they know this is right. Okay, so that's what normally people take more time. Usually the answer will be known if you know it ahead. What, Hemwash, you know it ahead or now you found out?
No, sir, just I guessed it right now.
Yeah, it's good. It's fine, right? So this is the way it is to be arranged. Now you can see any amount from 1 rupee to 1,000. You can give it. Actually, the last bag, it will not be 512, I think. Right? It will be less than that if you want to have the total, because it will be 1023. It is like 1 MB, right? 1 MB is 1024 bits. So it will come to the total 1024. If you want to have 1000, I have to reduce it here by 24. I think then it will be total 1000. So you can give any amount, 1 to 1000 rupees, without opening the bags by summing some of the numbers here. Okay. Thank you, Hemwash. It's and fine. I have given the right answer. Okay, we'll meet again tomorrow. Good luck. See you. And you can switch off the recording.